Hey, what's up guys? Gons here with this week's word of encouragement. And it comes from Philippians 4 verses 6 and 7. And here's what it says. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving let your requests be known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and mind through Jesus Christ. Now, I know this is a really popular verse that everyone talks about, but I think it's important to point out. Now, I have a friend who was literally saved when they read this verse, and so I know the power that it has. And I think it's particularly important with a lot of the things that we've been looking at this week with CERN and the plane crash and everything else. So here we go. Be anxious for nothing. This literally, guys, is a command from God. He is telling us to literally be anxious for nothing. I know that's not easy to do, but based on the way this is worded, we don't have an option. We are not to be anxious for anything, but in everything with prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. Paul wrote everything here not because only some parts of our lives should be subject to prayer and supplication, but everything, all parts of our lives. And with thanksgiving, because we don't want to whine and complain to God about our problems or anything like that. We want to come to Him knowing that He is God and being grateful for that. And then let your requests be made known to God. God already knows what our requests are and what our prayers are, yet He wants us to come to Him through prayer and acknowledge that we need Him and that it is His will that will ultimately be done. And what happens when we do that? Well, it says here in verse 7, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Jesus Christ. And the peace of God is something that is definitely beyond our understanding. If you think about it, God, being the creator of this universe, has a sense of peace about Him. Just a sense of happiness, of joy, despite all the evil things that go on. He's probably pretty content. And that's the kind of peace that we're talking about here. And it surpasses all understanding because as humans, we are limited to our senses and our emotions, and we are stuck in the cycle of the flesh. And no matter how much we try to understand something, it's not going to really sink in through the concept of knowledge, through the mind. It's something that is experienced. And then guard your hearts and minds. Well, the word guard here has military implications, which means that it's going to be under attack. But what God does with this peace that is beyond all understanding is that it protects our hearts and our minds. Because again, we can't comprehend this. It's something that is beyond us. So all in all, these verses should encourage you in spite of some of the things we've looked at this week and probably some of the things that we'll look at in the future that are dark and twisted. There's no reason for us to be anxious. There's all the reason for us to be in constant prayer and supplication for perhaps the things that we are exposing or the people that are being deceived by the things that we're exposing, that they would come to know God. And then through that, we should have the peace of God, which is beyond all understanding. And ultimately, that's going to guard our hearts and minds so that even though we look at these dark things and expose these dark places, our hearts and our minds are guarded. So that's the word of encouragement for this week, guys. Let me read it one more time. Philippians 4, verses 6 through 7. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Jesus Christ. God bless, guys. Have a great week.